Okay,
Yeah, the clock is.
let's start. It's 7:02. Let's have the planning board meeting come to order. Joe's going to be 15 minutes late. He asked me to chair. Want to do the roll call, Helen?
Yes, I would. Richard Sparks, are you here?
Here.
Mike Carpenter, are you here?
Yes.
Franz Gervasio?
Here.
Anthony Renzi?
Here.
Jeff Sheldon?
Here.
Also, Helen Hardy, Secretary. Chair Joe Perry is expected to be here in about 15 minutes, and we will note that when he comes. Also present are Jennifer Siciliano, planner, Joanna Achille, solicitor, Gordon Rogers, town council, and Sandy Sheldon, member of the public.
Okay, thank you, Helen. Jennifer, did you send out attachments for this backup for tonight?
Today, I did.
Oh, okay.
I did.
I didn't get it.
No attachments.
There were no attachments?
No, it's okay.
I got them.
You got attachments?
I didn't check, no.
I didn't get attachments.
I think they gave us everything here, just to look at it for the first time.
I got it.
So, okay. Then, the first minutes up are for the August 1st, 2018. Would someone like to make a motion to accept the minutes?
Make a motion, we accept August 1st, 2018 minutes.
Have a second?
Second.
All those in favor of approval of the August 1st minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passed unanimously.
Now, the site walk, Joe told me that since there was no quorum, there should be no minutes.
Right.
So,
Okay, sounds good. Have a little fun with my voice tonight, just in time to chill.
Yeah. Of course you.
Is there any correspondence, Jennifer?
no, Joe just wanted me to mention that I am continuing to update the comprehensive plan.
Board members' reports, do you have anything, Mike, for the land trust?
I just suggesting going on the web because Sue Dillon done a great job and gets everything up there. And there are just the highlights. There's another hunting season's coming up, and there's another area open for deer hunting at the hayfield. And September the 16th is part of the Land Trust Day celebration. There's going to be a nature walk over at Spencer West. And let's see. Like I said, I'd rather than go see the whole drill. It's also important to note that Land Trust is working, putting together forest management plan, which is going to be important for everybody that's on the farm forest and open space program, because they need to do that. So when it's done and be on the web, and
It would help individuals.
you bet, because there's a lot of folks don't know where to start with a plan, and this would be very helpful. So
The town can't afford any more land or cut rates on property owned by people, but that's a great idea.
Ron, you're out of order,
You're right.
so let's just not do that tonight, okay?
Excuse me,
Okay, that's enough.
thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Are those activities posted on the website?
Yes, and there's also a lot of PR on the website. Like, we had kids come in for to help clear the trail at Spencer West community program, so some pictures of that. And the upcoming family hike is a real short hike. You're gonna have area where people can, picnic, just walk in a half mile, not a big deal. So they can see that how nice the property is. And so that's a good reason to just go on and check it out. There's more and more going on there.
All right.
Not to Laura, may I address that?
Sure.
Okay. The farm and forest programs in other states keeps that land locked up. And when that land is sold, all the taxes that were protected are brought back to the town. Our farm and forest in this state is not helpful to the town, and truthfully, I'm going to address a couple of things tonight about finances. The town can't afford any more things coming off the tax rolls.
Okay, well, is there a proposal now for additional properties to be added to land trust?
Well, that's what they're going to work on.
Um,
Okay.
Well, probably that would be a good time to bring it up.
Well, we have a representative who finds out or goes to those meetings, and I would think that there should be a study done of our farm and forest versus other states' farm and forest, because our farm and forest are beneficial only to the homeowner and doesn't protect the land long-term. And I've lived in Pennsylvania, and I've lived in New Jersey, and I've lived in New York.
But that's a state law, that's not.
Yeah, would you like to volunteer to draft some proposed legislation?
No, I would think the land trust would be interested in that, but I could be wrong.
Well, maybe they could use some guidance from that.
Okay.
Anything else related to the land trust?
If I can just mention, on Saturday, there is an event called Land Trust Days. It's something that happens at different times all around the state, but this particular Saturday, Land Trust Days, there will be an event at Borders Farm where there will be trail walks, a yard sale, a bluegrass band, etc. So anybody who's not doing something, come on over.
Is that on the website, though?
On the town?
Yeah, that would be. Okay, well, that's a,
Does Borders have their own separate website?
Yeah, they do.
I haven't seen it.
It was in the Philosopher Home Journal too.
Yeah. But I don't think the land trust, what we spend now isn't, it's not a significant impact. I forget what it is. But with these management plans, you'll get a chance to generate some revenue, right? It would be selling timber or so.
The management plans, well, at least we talked about two different things. Ron talked about farm, forest, and open space, and that's a different thing than the management plans. And the management plans are just basically how to get employment of your property.
Yeah, we have one.
Rick, since you've addressed that and added it to those comments, the transfer, I call it the transference tax, but the tax sale, all that money goes to the land trust. And
From the timber sale?
no, from home sales.
Oh, okay.
And so they continue to take money that probably 2/3 of it should go into the capital fund and quit funding them to continue to take land off the tax rolls.
How is that implemented? Is that in the charter?
That was voted on at the town financial meeting when Nick Gorham was the solicitor, so I would say that was probably 15 years ago. And I think the council needs to relook at that for cash flow purposes.
Would be a charter amendment, and you were on the committee the last 2 times and never brought it forward.
I'm not sure this is on the agenda. So.
Yeah, I mean, if that needs to be a future agenda item, maybe we can put a tag on it there. But anyway, thanks to the Land Trust report. I have nothing for the Conservation Commission. I was out of town, I know they met, but can't help you out with that. Moving on to the written decision for the approval of the final plan. Is this a motion, or is this just something that needs to be discussed and
This is
final
the
plan
written
decision?
decision. Yes, it's just like if you were approving minutes.
Okay, do I need to read this in?
No.
No, just a motion.
Okay, then we'll take a motion to approve the final plan decision for industrial tower and wireless.
So,
Second.
Who won that?
Randy.
Better than me.
Okay, all those in favor of final written decision approval, please say aye.
I,
Opposed, say no. Passed unanimously. Okay, administrative subdivision.
So I put this on the agenda because I had gotten all the documents except for the Mylar but I never got the Mylar, so it's not ready. So I guess it should
Okay,
be
so it
tabled.
has to be tabled. We don't need a motion to table it, do we? Just table it.
I'll just put
I
it
mean,
on
it's
the
at
agenda
the,
next
essentially,
time.
it's at the request of the applicant, right?
Yeah,
Okay, thank you, Jonathan.
You're welcome.
we put 11 points on it, and 10, 7.
Okay, licensing fees. I have not seen this before, so, I mean.
do you want me to read the staff, what I put together?
Is that the short one?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, sure.
At the request of the planning board members, a list of licensing fees in Foster were compiled, and a selection of licensing fees in other communities in Rhode Island, including Gloucester and Situate, were researched. Attached is a spreadsheet of licensing fees. The columns highlighted in yellow are the licensing categories that Foster requires. So the ones that aren't highlighted are the ones that other towns require, but we don't. The unhighlighted column, that's what I just said. The liquor licenses are highlighted in orange because they're more complex. We only have some classes located in Foster, so we don't charge for certain ones, but that doesn't mean we wouldn't if we had them. So I said the planning board should review the spreadsheet and make recommendations to possibly increase fees for already licensed business categories if you so desire, and to make them comparable to other communities and perhaps additional categories of license and charge fees if you want. So there's a whole spreadsheet, it's 3 pages, and like I said, the highlighted ones are the ones that Foster has.
The ones in yellow,
The ones in yellow are the ones Foster has, yes.
do you have, like, some that jump to your attention that,
That's what I was looking at. The thing is that they were saying, I don't know if you have everything. For instance, auto repair shop, you don't charge anything, but other people do. Pool tables,
We charge.
we charge, but some places charge a little more. I mean, I know
Gloucester
it's
charges a
not.
lot more.
Yes, 200.
Yeah, Gloucester charges 200.
So, you know, I think it's really up to you. There was nothing that jumped out that was like extreme to me. It's just, but it's good to know this and look at it.
So I asked that this be put on, excuse me. The town has a revenue problem, and in a business, you need one of two things. You need profit, or you need cash flow. And the town doesn't have profit by proof of its surplus, and it doesn't have cash flow by its inability to buy equipment. So I asked that this be put on. I think the study speaks for itself, and I think in the realm of cash flow, I think we should go to raising fees in all categories that we have, and or we don't. Again, write a letter to the council to the suggestion after this decision or discussion, and if there is such a decision. There's one last thing I need to say in this. When we write letters to the council, they seem to think those letters are for information, and I think from now on, we should write at the bottom of the letter to be read into the record. so that it becomes public record and the council chooses or not to act on those things we bring forward. So in that regard, I'm gonna, do you mind if I start with a motion?
You can, it's on discussion only.
Oh, okay, so for discussion only, I would say that everybody at this point, bring these home. We are the capital, we do capital budget, think about where we are, and maybe put this on future agenda item for the ability to send for a decision, if possible, and send a letter to the council.
That sounds like a good suggestion.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Maybe, you know, you can look through it and decide which ones.
Doesn't look like we're gonna make a killing here.
Well, right, at this point, any money is plus money. The councils haven't worked on revenue production for years, so that's where we are.
Well, if you wait a few minutes, Joe, you probably could. I'm not sure, no. Yeah.
I figured that.
Thank you. Any further comments? Yes, Joe.
I mentioned this at the last meeting, when we talked about this, and that is that according to the old comprehensive plan, we had 1,100 businesses in this town.
1,100?
That's what it said.
Wow.
I'm sure a lot of those are, kitchen businesses.
I found it hard to believe. They said.
I found it amazing, to tell the truth, but
I
that was a number that somebody else ran back in 2010, I guess.
Maybe it was a typo.
Never had 1,100.
Maybe it was a typo.
No.
It was good.
110?
Yeah.
Maybe somebody split the decimal
And
point out.
zero.
Well, even at that, you may want to license home business, and truthfully, they should all be listed for the fire department at least. And I'm not saying $20, okay? But you should know who's running a business at home. So that's,
And what kind of business they do.
yeah, if they're packing and bringing stuff to,
And so right now, there's no ordinance that addresses that?
I checked with the town clerk, and she made an effort to list all the businesses in town, just so that they'd have a directory of it, but I think she only said she came up with about 150. That could be wrong,
So
somewhere on that
it'll
number.
probably have increased. I sense.
well, kennels, just kennels. Think about the most attended meeting ever was the doggy, Neil Whitelaw's doggy ordinance. okay?
0 kennels in town now. No licenses have been renewed. There's 0 kennels.
Well, could we have the people in the audience recognized?
Okay, go
Thank you.
ahead.
Last time when we reviewed the license, the last guy that had a kennel license on Route 6 with the Great Whites and Warriors, Beaupre, or whatever his name is, next to Mike Palucci's, he let his license go, I believe, so Candy Cane Kennels has since let theirs go. I don't believe there are any more kennel licenses in the town of Forest.
But there are kennels.
No, that's,
I'm not aware of any.
just so you know, you can have 100 dogs, 1,000 dogs. In order to have a kennel, you have to breed, board, or sell. And if you don't breed, board, or sell, just because you have 50 dogs does not dictate having a kennel.
But
The purpose of the kennel is when you have multiple dogs, and if you license each one individually, it would actually cost more than an actual kennel license.
So maybe Neil Whitelaw was onto something. Maybe the ordinance needs to be rewritten.
Well, we do charge $25 for a kennel license.
Well, we don't have any now.
So if somebody.
So charge 100 then.
If somebody breeds a dog and sells it, does that make them a kennel, or that just makes them a backyard breeder?
If you board, breed, or sell, it's required to have a kennel license.
And who would enforce that?
I don't know.
That's interesting. Okay.
So would it be appropriate to review the ordinance and assign responsibility?
Animal control officer be in charge of kennels?
Nope. Zoning official.
Zoning official. That full-time zoning official would wrote a letter about it.
Now,
businesses that are in town, the home businesses, the tax assessor is usually aware of who has.
If I could enlighten you on that, we have several, like Freestone Pottery is now out of business. Britain Antiques up on Route 6. Tommy Shemmick's got a special use permit for his weight measuring. And every single one of these has a tangible list that pays considerable amount of taxes on the property. It's the highest tax rate in the town of the 4 buckets that we put in, except for the motor vehicle. Motor vehicle's 36, tangible's 29. Commercial and residential are identical at around just short of 22 per thousand.
So they're aware.
Yep, they all fill out forms.
Because they have that list.
Landscapers fill out tangible forms, even though they're not running a business out of their house, they fill out tangible tax lists. Some do not. And any mowers they have or anything, they're listed as tangible. And
So we should be able to get a list of what.
And how many businesses?
or again, you have many others. You might have other landscapers out there that aren't paying on their equipment.
Okay, one at a time, I'm already having trouble following.
Even the ones that know, but have been doing it for such a long time, and there's no requirement for a license, that maybe we ought to think about it. I know I have no idea, I've never been there. There's supposed to be a winery in town?
Here it is, King Road.
Right?
Yeah.
There's one official winery that has a license, that's licensed winery,
So he'd have a license from the state. So
he's under farm and forest, I believe, he's under the right to
That's
farming.
agricultural.
Agricultural.
There's one in here for a pawnbrokers. I mean, we had somebody before, I think it was Adam Daco, and he's gonna be looking for open a pawnbroker. We want to have a fee for that, or what are you gonna do? I guess what Ron said, I think we ought to take a look at this, everybody, and anybody that wants to figure out what other businesses there are, we just ought to look at them and see if we think they need a license.
On the pawnbroker one, I'd like to add, they pay for a secondhand license, just like the antique shops, there's already a fee and a license that's required for a pawn shop, it falls under secondhand license. If they want to open up on Sundays and holidays, there's additional license fees for that.
The point is that we need cash flow, and the council has done a terrible job. So if you could just let us do our work.
Well, I'm trying to answer questions.
Well, we don't have an answer.
You're rattling off about raising fees on things when we already have them.
Well, we're gonna raise them if we can. Thank you.
Well, we're gonna look at it.
Well,
and I
we isn't your authority.
No, it isn't.
Okay. Can I speak?
Sure, thank you.
Yes, now, this licensing, this is obviously an opinion, a recommendation to the council, because the council is the one that has authority to change these fees, correct?
Correct.
Right,
Right, so we're gonna review these and give recommendations to the
that's
council.
our job.
Well, plus anybody that wants to write some notes about businesses in town, then.
So the council has final say.
That's correct.
Yes.
Okay, I'm just letting, I don't know if you discussed it in front of me, I'm sorry, I was late.
We're an advisory board.
Thanks for the
Okay.
clarification.
There's a couple here that we have, businesses that we have in town that we don't have a fee for. Junkyard, we got a couple of them. There's no license fee for junkyard,
Pretty amazing.
right? Indoor shooting range is a couple here in town,
Yep.
we don't have a license for.
Indoor?
Indoor,
There's a couple indoor shooting ranges in town?
Pine Ridge don't shoot indoors, they don't have a
Pine Ridge does.
pine tree rather.
Pine Tree.
Pine trees outside.
Strictly outside?
Strictly outside.
Pine is strictly outside?
You can hear the guns going off.
No, I know they got the outside range,
Yeah.
I thought they
No,
don't have.
I don't think they have.
Pine Tree has an indoor shooting range, if
That's what I
I may.
thought. That's what I thought.
I thought you were talking about Tri-Town.
No, Pine Tree, they have an indoor, because I shot outside the indoor. And I said, what's that? They said, that's the indoor range. Oh, okay, I didn't go in. But I mean, stuff like that, I mean, there is, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, so we can look at it for the next meeting, and as long as there aren't other priorities that.
Could I ask one other question, Mr. Chair? When you do look at it, could you come up with ideas like you're coming up with a suggestion of what the increase would be on a percentage, say, and a totality of what that would generate for revenue? Because that would, a guesstimate on what you think you're gonna raise in revenue would be.
We can try to do that, I don't know
Well, if you assign, let's say it's $25 you want to do for Pine Tree, and it's the single only indoor range, 25 for that. So we got a general
I
idea.
don't think we're gonna generate it.
Well, that's my point. I think you may generate
Under 10,000.
some very upset business owners in town is what you may generate.
Too bad.
So I'd like to, if you're gonna do this, send enough information to the council where we can make a concerned decision and don't have questions. And some of the questions would be it's simple to say, it's very easy to throw out a statement that says, we need to raise revenue, but not give what a revenue possibility would be with these increases in fees.
I agree, I had the same question myself, but I don't necessarily have the.
An estimate,
But
a reasonable
Rich,
estimate.
if we raise $2,000 or $3,000, let's say, that pays for cutting the lawn at the cemeteries
That's fine.
that we had a cut in the budget. I mean,
I'm
that
not
was a
saying-
big deal one day, so at least, we'll
I'm
have.
not
money
saying
to
not
cut
to do it, I'm just saying.
I get it, but I mean,
You know.
we're concerned how much it's gonna raise, but I mean, I've been to some, budget meetings that, it came down to, we don't have $1,000 to cut grass around the cemetery, so this would be a great way to raise money to, next year, maybe in the budget.
I'd like to add that the cutting of the cemeteries was never meant to be taxed. It wasn't the amount,
Okay.
it was taxpayer funded, was never meant to be.
That's not on the agenda. Can I speak to the agenda item, please?
Well, we're talking about licensing.
Right,
fees.
licensing fees. I'd like to speak to licensing fees, okay? Without names, there are businesses that were running car sales yards, have given up those licenses and now are breaking cars up, so that's a junkyard. If it's not for sale and it's sending out parts, then it's a junkyard. So, not only do we have to look at this, okay? Not only do we have to take into account Jeff's suggestion about how many businesses there are,
I had a question.
but I was not gonna
Oh, I'm
go
sorry,
there.
I thought,
I stopped because, there was a lot. All right.
I'm sorry.
So if we raise any money, and if we bring into the account for the fire stations, for the police departments, for anybody else to know where these businesses are, every day I go to the post office, or any day I go to the post office, there are people in there shipping out things on eBay. Now, when you ship out things on eBay, that means someplace in your house or garage, you have a whole bunch of styrofoam peanuts or wrapping, okay? So it's not a matter of only, in my mind, this isn't only about revenue production, which is my stated goal, but it's also about safety for the fire departments and everybody else. And we should know where there are home businesses, and if somebody is using their house. And one time I got taxed for a phone answering system that bounced down from rental, right? I was sitting in my house making money. So what did it cost me? $10 was my office. So anybody that's using their house to make money, I know that people are gonna be upset, but there's a lot to this. And so we just need to look at it, think about what we're not taxing. Mr. Rogers is correct, we should discuss about how much money and put that forward. And any money that's raised is good money. And people that get upset by this stuff, that's politics. That has nothing to do with what this board's function is. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ron. Joe, you had questions on that?
yeah, I was just curious, there's some clarification in the can section here where we have the Class A retail, and if this Class D, Class B, Class DM, Class BT, Class B, full prison. Is there any?
Yeah, I mentioned that, you weren't here, but.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'll
No,
talk
it's
to you about
okay,
it.
it's okay.
Medicare, so-
No, liquor licenses are kind of, I highlighted them in orange because, even though we don't charge for some of them, it's more because we don't have them. rather than we wouldn't charge for them. So I only had the amounts, so it's not like we could start charging.
I didn't know if you had definitions for the different classes,
There are.
what they entail.
Is it state law? I think it's state law.
I was just curious.
It's from state law.
That'd probably be helpful in reviewing it, sorry, to see what they want.
I can send you the state, the definition.
And the reason why we list a lot of them, many places have like fundraisers, like the Beagle Club and stuff, and they'll request a time and date for the BV license, which is just beer and wine.
Right.
Right.
May I ask the planners, do we have, I didn't see on this hotel, motels, or is it on here as B?
It is, so.
What's that?
So there's rooming houses, and then there's also hotels. So there's hotels, tourist accommodations, including hotels and motels.
Oh, I got it.
Well,
Do you
that's-
see that?
All right, thank you.
Yep.
All right. So it's not in the yellow there, that's all, thank you.
Yes.
So we're gonna look at this.
Is there restaurants on there? Jeff?
Restaurants is, how do you pronounce that? Victually?
Oh,
Victually.
Yeah, that's what restaurants are. I should have put that in your words.
There is a 1% return directly back to the town through the state funding on the restaurant, taxing and motel. For example, it's probably one of the highest generating tax revenues for the town. For example, when somebody comes in and rents a room, they're required to charge 13% tax on a room for the first 30 days. And of that, it's an additional 6% above the 7% sales tax. Of that, the state gets 6% of that for tourism, financing and stuff, and 1% of that every single year comes back to the town of Forster. So if you look at the revenues on any fiscal budget, you'll actually see motel and restaurant tax revenue. It's a single line item on your revenue to the town of Forster that's considerably larger than any other private entity coming into the
We get that
town.
even though we're not having.
Correct.
hotels.
So,
Yes, Jeff?
Yeah, there's another one here, tobacco.
Yes.
Way back in my misspent youth. We had worked at a gas station for a while. You had to have a certain license from the retail license to sell tobacco products.
states.
I think that's what this deal is. And the province is charging for that same fee. And I mean, we only have, what, 3 places that sell cigarettes? 3 gas stations?
I couldn't tell you.
4 gas stations.
I guess what I'm asking you, if there are businesses that hold 1 license, maybe it doesn't necessarily hold that they hold
Right.
all.
Oh, in the,
So let's look at this,
And there's tattoos on here, by the way.
Yeah, there are.
Which we didn't,
Yeah.
Just so to get it out there, my son owns a small business in Smithfield. Sells lemonade and ice cream. And I can't tell you how many licenses I have to pay, what he pays to the town of Smithfield. Okay, and they're all $50 a piece to sell lemonade and ice cream. There is a articulating license, there is a holiday sales license, there's a Sunday sales license, there's an after 6 o'clock license they have. Not that I want to turn Forster into that, but we don't even have licenses on some things here, and there's a town that's making plenty of money on tax stuff, okay, and they're still crying, but I mean, those are the things that other towns do.
at the same time, you don't want to put so many taxes on, that discourage people from wanting to do something. They need 12 licenses.
I understand, yeah, but you know what? It's part of doing business.
yes, it's part of
Okay,
it.
it's one of my expenses doing business, so in order for me to make a living, I have to pay that tax. Just like, you know, when you get paid at the state, they take your taxes out, it's part of doing business.
All right.
Okay, but also, they send in once a year a fire marshal, which he takes a looks around and he's always finding something wrong, and I always gotta pay him to come in $50 to inspect my business so that they renew my license. It's just like, it's pretty crazy out there. I mean, there's businesses in this town that I see on this list that we don't even ask for a license, auto repair, Joe, you're in the auto repair business, you know any guys that don't have licenses in the auto repair? You know, you know what I'm saying? So, things of that nature, I mean, we should take a little bit of a look at it, and it's not really going after, it's maybe trying to put Foster into the 21st century a little bit.
So, what do you think is the best way to handle this? Like to update this spreadsheet with proposed figures, but how do we all
Yeah, I,
get input into that?
that would probably be good. I think the nice idea is that I did give you some other categories. If you come up with a different category, then it's gonna be more complicated, because you're gonna have to come up with a definition of what that is, just to let you know. But there's a lot of things that people have already licensed that Foster is not. Whatever way is convenient, if you wanna write a list, I mean, it's not that large of a spreadsheet. If it's.
I had a business here, 106, 2 different locations. I paid nothing to the town. I mean, they collected some, I don't know, 25, 30, even $50 a year for my computers and my desk. Other than that, the town got nothing. And I would have no problem paying a fee just to have a business here in this town. Rents are fairly high in this area, so when you run a building, it's kind of expensive. So maybe paying that on top of it is an issue, but really, I think even if it just covered the cost of maintaining a file in town hall, that this business is in town, because right now, everything's word of mouth. I mean, Sue Dillon did a wonderful job compiling the list of people that responded to the questionnaire. But what about the people that didn't? Nobody knows they're there.
Well, the problem is, whose job is it gonna be to
And-
find them all?
Well, we honestly, and it's not on the agenda, but we already addressed that question when we talked about a full-time zoning official. That did not get read into the record, so I'm gonna deal with that in future agenda items.
Okay, so we pretty much agreed that this should be looked at, and we'll look at it and make our suggestions. Is there anything else?
But we can get it, everybody can look at it and just get their stuff into the planner, and she can re-look at this, that's all, it's not a big deal.
Okay, thank you. We'll move on to full-time planner, what you intended to discuss.
I asked that this be on, okay?
Do you want me to read it?
Oh,
What I wrote?
you don't wanna read it?
No, you're not applying for a job. I saw what you wrote, in the email. I mean, you're really not applying for a job. I mean, obviously, we know what you can do.
Yeah.
So
I
it's
did-
just the additional stuff that you can do that you don't have the time to do it.
Yeah.
Into this incentive, with that attachment, would you read it?
Sure.
I'm sure.
Yeah, I'll just say quickly, I said that the town budget's 37,510 for my salary, which is 24 hours a week. And town hall, the normal full-time schedule is 35 hours because they work 4 days. If you were to pay me for 35 hours, it'd be $55,692 a year, which would increase the salary by $18,182. I do mention that the planning official, it says in the charter, shall receive compensation that the town council fixes is within the limits of the amount appropriated by the financial town meeting. So I said any changes to that would have to be brought up at the next town meeting. And all of the budgets are, the requests for the budgets from each department are supposed to be submitted to the council by March 1st. So my suggestion is that you bring this up again, maybe in January or February when we're putting together those budgets. And to be prepared to, there's also a public hearing, be prepared to advocate for that at a meeting. I said my feeling is that 24 hours a week is enough for the basic requirements, but yes, there'd be 2 areas that I could expand if I worked more, which would be economic development and grant writing. I know, I enjoy economic development. That it would provide larger property and tangible tax without substantially increasing town services. So that's something that I could do, or I could do grant writing and administration. And I just mentioned that I've gotten a lot of grants successfully, but that what I find is that they can be more time consuming than you expect to do all the administration of it. So even though they're giving you money, it's a little bit more time than you think. And that's really, and then I just said, if you want to ask me about particular grants, I'd be happy to tell you.
Yeah.
I asked that this be put on, and I did this as a philosophical issue, but again, talking about short-term and long-term revenue. Back to how business runs, either with profit or cash flow. Right now, we have a cash flow problem, so the second reason I put this on is cash flow. The zoning official that we sent forward would deal with day-to-day fines, if there's, anything. So that's short-term cash flow. Long-term revenue production is what a planner does. So the town has two problems, and I think right now the immediate problem is short-term cash flow, and that's a full-time zoning official. We do have two people, I don't know what they cost, it doesn't matter. But I put this on more when we talk about capital budgets and we talk about the lack of money. So I'm talking about two ways to change the way the town develops revenue. One through zoning, the second one through planning and grant writing and economic development. Now the question will be, where do you get the money? Okay? Very simple, you can get the first pot of money for the zoning official from what he does, and if there's extra stuff and you start to do into a full-time planner, there should be no one that doubts what a full-time planner can do. Rick Grant got at least $500,000 worth of grants, and you know that Mary Ignatia, right, received those ones, okay? So that's happened. The other thing that happened was the grant for the rec center fields, okay? So that's what a planner does. Otherwise, what you end up doing with it is you hand it off to somebody in the town hall or the lawyer. And it costs you, going to cost you more for a lawyer to deal with than it's going to cost you for a planner. All right, so this was a philosophical discussion. I almost was going to take it off, but I just wanted to put it out there so that we start to understand. We see it when we don't have any money, when we start cutting things that are come to us, but I'm trying to put forward ways to solve our short-term, some ways to solve our short-term and long-term problems. Thank you.
Thank you, Ron.
Yeah, Ron, I couldn't agree with you more as far as the full-time position. I think the planning board has been advocating for this since since the planner would be part-time and it was a full-time planner. And it's a very important thing, and I think the benefits for the amount of money that it would cost us would definitely outweigh the cost of
One
the
grant
planner.
transfer or so.
Right, yeah, and then be able to do that and continue it, and I think it's a fabulous thought, but the timing, of course, as she said, budget season. Should
it's also
submit a budget next year.
It's also a political season.
Right, so you're not gonna change the
You gotta,
budget
likely where you go,
in a year.
right with an increase, Joe.
Well-
Politically, you're running for a position now.
Well,
So if, you don't want people to know that, there's an increase, so.
That's why I was
Never
gonna
made a
take,
secret that I think we should have a full-time planner.
Joe, that's why I was gonna take it off, okay? It's more important this time, short-term monies come in, and that can be dealt with the zoning official, all right? And so, I just wanted to put it out there. You guys can discuss it all you want. I don't think we should send a letter forward at this time. But what I'm trying to do is get the board to understand the problems moving forward, okay? Getting on the council and going, whoa, holy mackerel, okay, is,
You know, the
so that was
the
it.
board definitely agrees with you, I can speak for most of us.
So-
There's definitely an agreement as far as the planning board, they've always advocated for that. And, you know,
Just
it's always up to the council.
comprehend, making maps.
So, I think just like Jennifer, with her abilities, has saved us money already because she took over the comp plan where we were still paying, we still have money left for the, from the consultant that we didn't use, so that, I think there's $8,000 still that hasn't been expended. And so if she can finish the plan without the consultant's input at this point, that money will go back, you know.
We understand that, and we know that, and she works
So
with
that's
us.
just one example.
She works with us hand in hand quite a bit, so we kind of know the need for
Right, we
it.
do.
And then if we're gonna move forward, if you only have half part-time, we only move forward part-time.
So I'm gonna ask that this be tabled, having, you know, pretty much an agreement, and ask that this be tabled at this time. And-
Well, I just want to say, can we put a flag on it to raise it in
Yeah.
January? Yeah. Yeah, and I agree, table it to January,
Yeah.
and include it into the capital budget.
Nothing's gonna happen now.
So I make a motion that.
Well, it doesn't sound like it could anyway.
Right.
You can't
Well,
discuss
it's
it.
discussion over.
All right, so, okay, so, yeah, sorry.
Sorry, the budgets for the following year need to go to us basically in December. And so it needs to come back, we need to bring it back.
Is that capital?
Well, the
fund?
capital
That's
doesn't,
different.
this
That's
is
different.
the fiscal year budget for the town,
Yeah.
so that would go to the financial town meeting. Go through the process, there are meetings with the council
Yeah,
for budget workshops, so any of us are welcome to attend and speak in favor
So-
of the planners.
that's correct.
So may I just state again, we have two problems. And the first problem is cash flow, so to bring forward something that's a long-term agenda may not, even though we are in agreement. So I'm gonna say, I'm gonna do future agenda items in a moment, but again, I'm gonna say, short-term cash flow is a bigger problem. So keep in mind the person that produces that, and that's the zoning official.
Okay, do we need to, we've already taken an action.
Oh, you know what, let me just state this, the Republicans, I shouldn't say.
Right, here we
It's-
go.
Actually, it was not, was not, the people who were in charge of the council at the time, and it was not.
What are you addressing?
I'm gonna address, zoning, well,
It's,
short-term cash flow, can I just stick that in here? Is that okay?
Talk about the
Under this
plans.
topic? Or do you want me to make a motion to talk about it?
You can't, it's not on the
Yes, I
agenda.
can.
It's not necessarily emergency, but there is a provision that does allow you
Yeah.
to make.
So let me make a motion to just make a few comments about a zoning official. Do I have?
This is an emergency, because I'll file a
No.
grievance.
Wait, I don't understand what your motion
He's
is.
making a motion to add an agenda item, I believe.
Yes, that's correct.
okay.
Which is what?
Zoning official. Actually, it comes in the planner too, but, do I have a second?
Oh, second. I didn't even ask for it.
Sorry,
What's the motion?
it's a,
Ron
They have
to
made,
discuss.
Ron made a motion and it been seconded to discuss the position of the zoning official.
so, can we have a vote? Or do you want to
Okay,
discuss?
all those in favor? Say
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed?
It's gonna be quick. So, just real quick, so you won't.
Joanna.
Can I stay?
So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 votes.
You guys,
Joanna,
none of you three voted?
you can do that?
Oh, I didn't vote
I just voted.
negatively, so I'm assuming it, I assume that unless I vote negatively, that it's positive.
Okay.
I think it, I didn't vote because I wasn't sure if it was kosher. I just wanted to make sure it wasn't violation of open meeting.
I would just like to get a clarification from the solicitor on what grounds we can add, make motions that aren't on the
The
agenda.
solicitor doesn't work for you at this job.
I know Gordon's in the audience, but just let's not interrupt, but someone can continue with something.
Well,
She's ours, she's
to-
our
to
solicitor.
Did
save
we have
time.
discussion on the motion at all before we voted on it?
No, we didn't actually. It would be appropriate to
Can
discuss.
we go back and have the discussion?
Yeah.
Just-
Yeah, if you want to, sure.
I just want to clarify. So I'm not against it, actually, I'm not against it. I just want to clarify
That's where I am.
legalities. So I just don't want to violate an open meetings law. That's the only thing I'm concerned about. I really have no objection to discussing it. I just want to make sure.
Usually carry the whole act with you, but I don't have it today. There is something that does allow you to add an agenda item for discussion purposes only. I don't think it's,
It's an amendment to the agenda, and the only one that you can't do is the school committee can't do it.
And
you can't have action on
and
it,
you
Just
can't have
discussion.
action.
just discussion.
Just for discussion.
No action.
Okay.
Can I ask who
Just
voted
discussion.
yes? I'm not
I
clear.
don't think
Well,
we've actually
no, wait,
voted.
I just wanna go back-
Discussion,
easy vote,
discussing
easy.
the motion.
Unbelievable.
Just clarification.
Okay, so, now in discussion. There was a time when a planner and a zoning official,
We're gonna vote again.
no,
They
you
have to
want
vote.
a discussion.
You're gonna
Okay,
vote.
wait,
You have
wait.
to vote to add the agenda item, you can't have a
Right, we have
discussion
to have a
first.
vote on the.
You have to
Everyone
vote
should
if you
do it on
want
the
to have
Okay,
the
we
agenda item.
already voted to have the agenda.
But
We need to have
I
discussion
don't,
first.
you need to pull the
Because
whole board.
we needed to determine whether it was
Legally
Legal.
allowable. So
Allowable,
do we have
so-
that opinion?
Yes, she said it was.
Um, I'm not quite.
Discussion over.
I'm sorry,
Discussion over.
discussion.
Well, I'm trying to find
I'm
the
not
statute
quite
for
sure
that.
that we have an answer on that.
No, it's,
She knows it is true.
I'm just
It's
looking for the
wants to-
statute for you guys. for
No, as
reference.
long as it's, you said, that's all I wanted, just an opinion, that's all. All right, so just take the vote. All right, I'm just having a vote.
Okay, Anthony?
Yes.
Okay. Deb?
Yes.
Okay. Ron?
Say yes.
Rick?
Yes.
I vote yes, Mike votes yes, Joe?
Yes.
So that carries 7-0.
Gordon, how do you vote?
Now discussion, sir.
Okay, open for
And
discussion.
this-
Ron,
this-
It's up to the Attorney General.
Discussion only.
discussion only.
Discussion only. There was a time when we did I'm gonna say it was a GPS, but we had a flyby over town of Foster, and we found 900 illegal buildings that the zoning official called people in. They had to pay the permit fees, and they had to pay the taxes from then on the building. We didn't fine people or any of that. All we wanted was permit fees and taxes from then on. So think about that, 900 sheds.
How much did you make?
I have no idea, I'm just giving you, all right? So, that the zoning official and the zoning board created a fine, if it was $100 apiece, okay? Between the taxes and the application fee, okay? 900 times 100.
So there's potentially
Right,
some
okay, that's,
significant money.
thank you, that's what I'm talking about is zoning
It's
official.
done on the rebound.
I'm sorry, Ron, I'm
Not a
not
flyby.
sure it's important, but what was the event for I didn't get it.
Without naming any names, the planner and the zoning official, but the planner somehow arranged it and.
It must have been an aerial.
It was aerial photographs, okay?
Okay,
And it found 900 additional buildings that were not accounted and not being taxed. They were brought before the zoning board. They were asked to pay the application fees, and from then on, that stuff went on the tax rolls.
Okay.
Right, that's all.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
I was gonna recognize it. Yeah, is your hand up?
Yeah, I know what he's talking about. That was actually done through a reval It was not done through a flyover, and nobody ever had to come in front of the zoning board. Just imagine 900 people coming in front of zoning board meetings. That would be something you guys would certainly remember. So again, this is farce and hearsay and untruths. What it was done,
Thanks
what
for the
it,
clarification.
what-
Okay,
where it was caught on, it was caught through a reevaluation, and what they wound up doing is, it's written in our ordinances and our fine system that, for example, somebody didn't put a porch on that wasn't in the original planning. When the reval found the porch, it didn't match the original plans. The fee was they had to apply for it, and the fine was whatever the cost of the original fee was, it was double. So say it was $35, it would have been to have that of the original plan, to have the porch on the house as part of the totality of the fees. They were charged $35 for not paying the original, and the fine was what the original fee would be. So it was you were only gaining the 35 above what they would have done anyway. They did not tax it back retroactive. It was taxed from them moving
That's
forward.
what I said.
Not with an airplane through a reval.
I can't stand this crap.
Okay, one at a time, and let's slow it down a little bit.
Just facts.
That was the fact that I presented.
That's a plane, that's not a fact.
Okay, so there may be some potential there for, some
You're
revenue.
one of the state house.
You want to speak?
Well, I just wanted, yeah, I know that,
Before you.
I do agree that, you know, I was gonna mention
Revals.
that before Gordon spoke, that they do get a lot of these through the reval, when they do the full revals every 10 years.
6, it's
9 years now, and every third reval is a full reval.
every other reval, they're done every 3 years, an actual and a statistical. So every 6 years you do an actual.
Okay, Gordon, please refrain until you get recognized.
So through the-
I got it.
The full reval, the last time they did a full reval, not this time, I don't know what the numbers are this time, but they did find about 600 people at the previous reval that had added buildings or additions and didn't take out permits. So they did, you know, tax them accordingly, so of course the value of the property went up, you know, and then they were, you know, paid fees on that. As far as, you know, this year, I don't know how many they have found, but they just did a full reval this year too, so they probably found more where people are being under tax because people aren't taking out permits.
So it's being addressed.
Yes.
Okay, anything else? Thank you. Jeff?
There's, I work in a lot of foreclosed houses, and I work in a lot of reverse mortgages. There's a large movement in the industry now to track down
This is a discussion of
the house and whether or not all the building permits are pulled to do whatever work has been done. And for instance, somebody building an in-law apartment or putting an addition on the back of the house for somebody to see it, or building a deck. They've actually had us removing these items from the house because there's no documentation for it, there's no permits for it. Insurance companies will may not insure it, whatever the reason. About 30 years ago, the building inspector, I believe it was in Burrowville, he went house to house to determine what all everybody had done. He was a real happy camper. 2 years later, he went to the town council, I have about $15 million in fines on him. They fired him because the townspeople weren't going to stand for it. Their attitude was, this stuff's been here for years, it's too late, leave me alone. I don't know, I tend to think that something like that would happen here. Especially if the house had changed hands in the meantime. The current owner could say, that was done, I bought the house the way it is, not my fault, I'm not gonna be held responsible for it, you people should have known that, whatever. So, there's a lot of that's happened, especially in these rural towns where we have part-time building inspectors. You have to be careful. If you're going to do something like that, you would have to be very, very, very careful.
Anyway, it sounds like it's already being dealt with through the revaluation process. I guess it would be better to catch that before.
There are just a lot of things that slip through the cracks,
Yeah.
and it's costing us money. And no one's trying to go out there and door to door and trying to tax people or raise fees or do whatever. I think it's just the town needs to be a little more efficient at what they're doing with a lack of leadership at the council levels and so forth. If we had a full-time planner and zoning official that could keep track of doing things like that, the town can move forward with a vision, and probably we'll not get rich, our taxes will never go lower, but maybe we can function a little bit better and not being begging and cutting at the bone at every little meeting.
Say that all again, that was so nice. That was so nicely put.
Helen, you won't get that
It's on
stuff.
tape.
No, that's it, I think.
We're gonna only get that, you only get that stuff one time, I already forgot.
No, when you said, yeah.
Which part did you like?
I don't think you wrote it down.
I don't realize how I was on a roll there, I don't know. We're not,
Yes, what you said about,
Jennifer will send you the tape.
here you go. It was just so nicely put about with a full-time planner, with a full-time,
there are a lot of things that slip
zoning
through the
inspector,
cracks.
that these things can be done more efficiently.
Right.
Basically,
That's-
that, you said that very nicely.
Yeah, taxes aren't gonna go down with the way help.
My memory is terrible, but didn't we already make a recommendation to town council for full-time zoning?
Well, part of the blight thing, I think,
Last, and
well,
that was
the letter,
Yeah.
that's been on the agenda,
that was all the minutes of the last.
on their agenda.
Yeah, but our letters don't get read into the
I'm
public.
gonna do that in a future agenda.
They should.
They just take it and file it, and the planning board doesn't do anything. If it's read out to the public and it's read, and it's made a note of, then,
Well, they
The
got,
town council does
the
it.
council
Yeah,
has to
town
put it on
council
the
does it.
agenda, right? I mean,
what's that?
it's gotta go on an agenda that the letter was sent to them, and they should read it.
Well, I was gonna address that on their future agenda items, I've said that 3 times now.
Well, is there anything more to discuss on the zoning board person issue?
Yeah, it's like 90 degrees in the shade in here. That's
So-
a hint, that's a hint.
I
cool, yeah,
was, yes.
Okay, so can we
You're
move
already
on?
skinny, what do you care? It's those of us that carry 300 pounds.
Whoa, whoa.
I'm not ready to learn.
Okay, let's move on to the future agenda items.
I have one.
Any other discussion? Go ahead,
Uh,
Ron.
I would like the planner, we can't have a vote on this, so I'm just gonna ask that the planner rewrite our letters, written 2 letters to the town council now, and at the bottom of the letter, she write in, to be read into the public record, all right? And that's how these letters get on the agenda and not ignored.
I don't know how that's.
Well,
gonna
Future
fit in
agenda
the
item.
item, But,
But Ron, I
Well-
just wanted to say one thing, the last letter that we sent, we gave it to them the night before, so just before the council
We
meeting.
haven't met
so
yet.
I don't think I had time to get on the
Okay.
agenda.
We haven't even met yet, and you're
Possibly on
complaining about
Next
something.
week's agenda, the letter about the blight, I think it just went in a little late for them to get it on the agenda.
Do we want to put this on the future?
Possibly gonna be on the agenda.
That's supposed to be for the next meeting.
Yes, that's on for the
You
next
got homework for the next, unless there's other priorities.
yes, is there any other future agenda items, because I'd like to,
Do we have
I want-
applications?
I'm
we
sorry.
do, we will have applications.
Well, real people,
Multiple,
real people?
real,
real people are gonna come to us?
yes.
So the applications always take precedence, is what
Correct.
I've come to
Yes.
understand, because I've had to learn this, like you're learning it.
So Dr. Barnes will be coming, that I know for sure. Cohog Solar has submitted their preliminary plan, but I believe they should go to
Council.
council first
Yeah.
next week. And that we shouldn't, it shouldn't be on the agenda for the next one, because you want to know what they.
No, yeah, let them go to the council and give some
You have to
time.
advertise it,
Yeah.
that's gonna be advertised.
The preliminary, that's correct.
Yeah,
So I
yes.
need to, yes, so that won't be on the 13th, but.
Comprehensive plan update, can we put that on?
Comprehensive plan update?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, good suggestion, Joe.
Let's get that done, and, we can probably get, if we have time, we can get back to that commercial. If that plan's done,
The commercial.
commercials on, we were talking about.
Can't do it unless that comprehensive.
Well, that's why I'm taking it.
Way to go,
We're
Joe.
really close exactly.
You're
Yeah, I
starting
know.
to get my vote, Joe.
I'll suck up to the
This is bad.
I'm sitting on the sidelines.
I'd like to keep revisiting zoning until we settle what we're doing zoning.
What's that? Yeah.
The commercial rezone, is what you're talking about?
Yes, for Route 6, maybe 101, maybe parts of 102 or 14.
Yeah, let's get one first, chief.
Well, yeah, we just, stick with what we've been working on.
I think one of the most important, I mean, I think that I'm still working on the comp plan, so we'll see how that goes. But I think the next thing for commercial rezone would maybe be looking at uses. The use table, what the uses are allowed and not special use
Deterrent.
permit.
Deterrent.
Yes,
Deterrent.
yes. I think that that's an important.
We have a lot of letters that do, on the zoning, that do a lot of things. I mean, you're absolutely right.
Right.
Is the table that we have in our little booklet here, are these our only choices?
Do you have to write that?
Add things, but
No, you
yeah.
can add things to the use table, like we did marijuana is being added at a public hearing. You know, anything you can add to the use table, it's just gotta be added like a zoning amendment, so it has to go through the town council.
And again, if you
Why are you
add
looking at me to say
something,
something?
well, if
Marijuana
you-
ordinance.
well, if you add some, like I said, if you add any uses, you have to think about the definition. It's more difficult than you think, but if you came up with something, I could look and see if somebody else made a definition for it, but
I'm just coming in and talking about one of the uses I look at.
I'm sure.
May
Yeah.
I ask?
I can kill a whole hour, I can take an hour a day.
So you could have to be more than full time.
Yeah.
May I ask the planner to just, you do these charts, it'd be really nice to have a chart of a couple towns and the different zones that they have, that we wouldn't be familiar with. You know, you just did this with this.
Yes,
You know what I
yes.
mean?
Are there towns that you think that you would like to see? Because I
Charlestown.
assume, oh, Charlestown,
Hope Valley.
Hopkinton, Exeter.
Hope
those
Valley.
down there. Okay.
Well, I'm actually, see, what I'm trying to, this was said before, trying to bring the town into the 21st century. So we could look at deep Wyoming, or we could try and look at, I don't know, West Warwick, or we could look
Oh,
at
yeah, let's find out
Smithfield.
West Warwick.
Look, we need information. We're working in a lack of information. So give me Exeter, but give me
A city.
Western Cranston. I don't care.
They're all available on the
Yeah.
internet. I mean, that's why I mentioned Charlestown, because I had occasion to
Yeah, I
be
can
looking
tell.
at some stuff, and it's just great. You go there, and it's like they got everything. So, I mean, there's really nothing to stop you from going to any of these towns and looking at what they've got, rather than.
But I think it's easier for me to
Well, I know,
bring it, and
Okay.
I know where to find it.
Okay. What are
I'm
you
just
trying to say this or?
I know.
but I
Up to
think,
Our neighboring towns would be,
Like
what do we
Boston,
want? We want
Boston.
to just see the
Would be
use
pretty
tables.
good.
Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Kelly was
Just
from.
I think that would be
Everybody's
it,
going.
because I know I already have a lot.
I mean, we usually review other towns for different things when we did our ordinances for different things.
But maybe just the use tables,
Right.
so would be.
But they are available, I've gone online when we come to different things, look at other towns, which we compare.
It looks like a-
It's not that
It's
difficult.
not that.
But It's definitely like tonight, you know, this stuff, we get the last minute, very unproductive, you know, to look at.
Not usually.
I'm trying.
I feel like.
So that's why you try to put things on the agenda when, in a timely fashion, so you have them material ahead of time.
Right,
you know.
right, but that's like, the point is like I had to do
Yeah,
this
yeah.
the
Oh, I just,
last couple of days
No, I
because of the
know.
holiday and stuff.
All right, anything else on future agenda items? Do we want to make a motion, Jack?
Oh,
I
nice.
had some,
Oh,
wait,
wait.
he lifted his arm.
he raised his hand.
Go ahead, Mike.
Want to do something nice?
Yes.
Instead of all this nonsense. It would be nice, I think, if we write a letter to the council and recommend strongly that they initiate appropriate service awards for volunteer members on the boards and commissions. no one. But we have, the charter, I think, requires that they have a general meeting every, what is it, 3 years, I think, or, I'm pretty sure. All the boards and commissions are supposed to meet on an annual, triannual basis or something. We've ignored that. And I know it's done in the volunteer organizations, all of them that I've ever belonged to. I think it's something that needs to be done, because, we all agree it's very hard to get volunteers, and I think recognition is important to everybody.
Does that include us?
Certainly.
Absolutely.
You could be in the running.
Oh, yeah, the paper.
How about a claim bake or something?
No, and I don't mean it has to be anything specific. I mean, I think we should just recommend in a way of regenerating the importance of that, and leave it up to the council to decide what's appropriate. Plaque, event, meeting, whatever, just so these people who serve year after year are recognized. And I think that motivates people, and it gives visibility to what the different boards and commissions do. And I don't think anybody would have any objection to that. It's a good thing, it's a motivator. It's getting harder and harder with all the compliance issues we have and the laws and everything we have to follow.
In Woonsocket, the planning board used to go out to dinner once a year.
Together?
Yeah, but they weren't allowed to talk about,
Or there would be a quorum, huh?
yes.
Yeah.
And you go to one of the.
So you are con your way to having all of us take you out to dinner alone.
Actually,
Then I would get seven.
That's good for a couple weeks, anyway.
the school committee actually went out after every meeting,
Oh,
and I initiated that.
I want to go to that. We should go to one of the things you guys have to do.
Yeah, hell,
Maybe you fit that. Who's licensed?
So if you get a nice letter, Mike, we're gonna have you for another 30 years.
And it's better, it's just I want to frame it because
What is that?
it is important.
It's 8:14.
I'm sorry.
Okay, so, you're gonna draft a letter or something?
Oh, wait, that was a future agenda
Future
item.
agenda.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
So we'll put it on next week.
I'm sorry,
Okay.
these are all under future.
Yes.
Okay, and
That one
I'm
is
a
a
man of action, I like to
fairly,
get things done.
it's a fairly
I already said
specific
motion to adjourn.
agenda,
Are you paying any attention?
Oh,
more specific.
go ahead.
Motion to adjourn. Somebody second.
thank you, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We have